don't you want to try the coffee I made especially for you, honey?" James's voice was soft, almost sweet, but something in his eyes didn't match. We were sitting in Nina's elegant dining room, the kind with high-backed chairs, polished silverware, and windows that let in just the right amount of judgmental sunlight. It was one of those monthly family brunches where everything looked perfect on the outside, but felt tense underneath. James set the mug in front of me with a careful smile. I picked it up. The smell hit me immediately. Sharp, metallic, like blood and battery acid. Not burnt, not spoiled, just wrong. My stomach turned. I glanced around. Nina was pouring mimosas, laughing with her fake perfect laugh. No one noticed how my fingers froze around the handle. Instinct. Something told me, don't drink it. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I waited until Nina left the room, then quietly swapped mugs with hers. She didn't notice. 10 minutes later, she clutched her chest and collapsed. Everyone screamed. James stood up so fast his chair fell over. He ran to her side, but not out of concern. His face had gone ghost white. He wasn't looking at Nina. He was staring at the mug. And that's when I knew that coffee was never meant for her. Have you ever trusted someone so deeply, only to find out they were counting on your silence or your death? Keep watching. The truth was far darker than I imagined. I met James when I was 26, working the night shift as a nurse at the county hospital. He was charming, soft-spoken, and just the right amount of broken, fresh from a divorce, trying to rebuild his life. He came into the ER with a sprained ankle and left with my number. We were married within the year. At first, it was everything I'd ever wanted. A stable home, a husband who brought me flowers, a future I could finally lean into. I didn't grow up with much. My parents died in a car accident when I was 15. I bounced from foster homes to college dorms, always surviving, always hoping for something solid. James felt like solid ground. And Nina, his younger sister, well, she was polite, smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. She was one of those women who dressed like a lifestyle ad and made everything look easy. She never said it out loud, but I could feel it from day one. I wasn't their kind. James came from money. His parents left him a trust, a house, and a reputation in the right social circles. I came from survival, from discount grocery stores and second-hand shoes. Still, I tried. I learned how to cook from scratch. I ironed his shirts, laughed at his father's dull jokes, and showed up to Nina's brunches with homemade pies and too much humility. And for a while, it worked. James provided, and I adapted. Eventually, I left my nursing job. At the time, it felt like love, like devotion. He said, "You don't have to work. Let me take care of things now." So I let him. I kept the house spotless, planned our vacations, supported him through his new business ventures, real estate investments, consulting work. I was his quiet partner in everything, even if no one else saw it that way. But over time, something shifted. It was subtle at first. He stopped saying thank you, stopped asking how I slept. His touch became perfunctory. His tone clipped. Nina started showing up more often, always with an agenda, always with a glass of wine already half gone. She'd lean in and whisper things like, "You should think about a little Botox. James says you used to smile more." I laughed it off. I always laughed things off. But the distance grew. James started traveling more, late-night phone calls, password-protected laptops. I found receipts in his pockets from bars I'd never heard of. One time, I found an earring in the glove compartment of his car. When I asked, he said it was Nina's, and like a fool, I believed him because I wanted to, because it was easier than confronting the truth, because I still loved him, even when he'd already started letting go of me. Then one day, I overheard a conversation he didn't know I was around to hear. He was on the phone in the guest room, door half open. I was walking by, carrying laundry. He said, "I've checked the policy again. If anything happens to her, The payout is immediate. Full amount. No questions. I froze. He wasn't talking about a car. He wasn't talking about property. He was talking about me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the bathroom floor with the door locked, rereading our life insurance documents. My name was listed as the insured, James as the sole beneficiary. The policy had been quietly updated 6 months earlier while I was still signing birthday cards and baking his favorite cinnamon rolls. It didn't hit me all at once. It crept in slowly, like poison, like that metallic smell in the coffee mug. I thought I was imagining things, that maybe I was being paranoid. But then the accident started. First, the bathroom heater malfunctioned while I was showering. I nearly passed out from the heat. James just shrugged. Must be faulty wiring. Then one night, I had food poisoning so severe I ended up in the ER. James had made dinner that night. Nina had been over. I couldn't remember what I'd eaten. Still, I said nothing. Still, I stayed. Because part of me couldn't accept that the man I had loved, the man I had sacrificed everything for, might be trying to erase me. Until that brunch. Until the coffee. Until I saw the look on his face when he realized the wrong person had drunk the poison. That's when everything changed. Something inside me woke up. Not fear. Not rage. But focus. It wasn't about survival anymore. It was about truth. And once you taste the truth, you stop swallowing lies. Nina was rushed to the hospital that morning. James rode in the ambulance with her, playing the part of the concerned brother. I stayed behind at the house, my hands trembling, heart pounding, mind racing. Everything about that moment screamed chaos on the outside, but inside me, there was an eerie calm because I knew that coffee was meant for me, and now his plan was falling apart. I sat at the kitchen island, staring at the 2 identical mugs still sitting on the counter. I replayed every recent moment. The smirk James gave me when he handed me the cup, the hesitation in his voice, the way he watched me like he was waiting for something. My gut had screamed at me, and thank God I listened. I cleaned up the cups carefully. Wearing gloves, I placed the one I was supposed to drink into a Ziploc bag and sealed it tight. Then I packed a small overnight bag, grabbed the keys to my car, and drove to the hospital. Nina was unconscious but stable. Toxic exposure. The nurse told me, "We're still identifying the substance. It looks like a neurotoxin, but very low dosage. Low dosage. Just enough to disorient, to build up over time." They would have kept dosing me until my nervous system started to fail, until I collapsed one day in the shower, or behind the wheel, and they would have said it was stress, or a stroke. James didn't expect me to be suspicious, but and now, I was done playing quiet. That night, I didn't go home. I booked a room at a budget motel under a different name and pulled out an old laptop I hadn't touched in years. I went into full nurse mode, methodical, clinical, focused. I created a document titled, "Just in case something happens to me." In it, I wrote down the exact events of that morning, the toxic symptoms the doctor mentioned, the updated insurance policy I found tucked in James's files weeks earlier, the recording of that strange phone call I captured through a voice memo app after that gut-turning conversation. Yes, I'd started recording him weeks ago, just in case, and now just in case had arrived. Over the next 48 hours, I built my case. I called an old friend of mine, Sandra, who worked in a toxicology lab. I told her everything. She tested the residue from the mug I'd saved. The results came back, traces of tetrodotoxin, a rare neurotoxin often found in pufferfish, in the wrong doses. It could cause paralysis, seizures, even death. That wasn't something you could accidentally drop into coffee. That was calculated, sourced, intentional. Then I accessed our shared financial records, carefully, discreetly. I found a series of wire transfers from James's account to an LLC that didn't exist a year ago. The address? A mailbox rental service in Nevada. The purpose? Consulting fees. I dug deeper, and that's when I found the final crack in his mask. James had taken out a second life insurance policy without telling me, one with double the payout. if death was accidental. And the listed beneficiary wasn't just him, it was him and Nina. I stared at that document for a long time. My hands were cold, but my face felt hot. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't being dramatic or paranoid. They were planning this together, my husband and his sister. The betrayal wasn't just about the poison. It was about all of it. The years I gave up, the job I walked away from, the independence I slowly let erode, the way they both smiled at me over dinner, laughed at my stories, toasted my birthday, while quietly planning my erasure. They thought I'd never question it. They thought I was too trusting, too naive. But what they didn't know was that I had been through hell before I ever met them, and hell taught me how to survive. I brought everything to a lawyer named Alana Price. She specialized in domestic betrayal and financial crimes. When I laid it all out, poison report, insurance policies, emails, financial records, she looked at me and said one word, "Damn." Then, "Do not go back there. We're going to the police." We did. And once the report was filed, things moved faster than I imagined. Police took my mug sample. The toxicology report confirmed it. They issued a warrant for James's financials. And just like that, his perfect little scheme unraveled. Meanwhile, James still thought he had time. He called me repeatedly while I was gone, left voicemails laced with fake worry. "Hey, babe. Just checking in. Where are you? Nina's recovering well? We're all a little shaken up. Call me. Okay?" That tone, the one that used to comfort me, now sounded like acid. I never called him back. Instead, I watched quietly as the pieces began falling around him. I watched him lie to the police. Then I watched them present him with the lab results. And then, the audio file. The look on his face when they played that recording, "It'll look like natural causes. No one's gonna question it," was almost satisfying. Almost. But nothing felt quite as powerful as sitting across from my attorney and signing the final restraining order. He wouldn't come near me again. But I wasn't done yet, because this wasn't just about justice. It was about taking my life back. It's funny how quickly the hunted becomes the hunter when you stop being afraid. While James was busy spinning lies, hiring a lawyer, and pretending to be the concerned husband, I was busy preparing a storm he couldn't outrun. With Alana, my lawyer, by my side, I filed for an emergency protection order and a temporary financial freeze. It wasn't just about keeping him away from me. It was about cutting off the resources he had used to build his trap. And it worked. His accounts were flagged. His offshore transfer attempts failed. And just like that, the man who once controlled everything, from the roof over my head to the coffee in my cup, was no longer in control of anything. The police officially opened an investigation into attempted murder and insurance fraud. The media caught wind of the story within days. Prominent local consultant accused in coffee poisoning plot. Husband and sister-in-law under scrutiny for insurance scheme. James's face, once so polished, so confident, now appeared in tabloids under headlines like "The Latte That Almost Killed." He tried to act composed, claimed it was all a misunderstanding. But the evidence was relentless. That was just the beginning. One afternoon, I received a call from the prosecutor's office. "Mrs. Bennett," the woman said, "you might want to come in. We've uncovered something you should see." I sat in the small office, across from a detective holding a thick file folder. She opened it, then placed a printed email chain in front of me. It was between James and Nina, dated 6 months earlier. They weren't just planning to kill me. They had done it before. The file revealed that Nina's previous roommate, Erica, had died under suspicious but inconclusive circumstances 2 years ago. Her life insurance policy? Beneficiary: Nina. The payout? Just shy of $250. Same pattern. Low-dose neurotoxin. Sudden collapse. No conclusive autopsy. My stomach churned. They had practiced on someone else, perfected the dosage, refined the cover-up. I wasn't their first target. I was supposed to be their last. The DA added attempted first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit homicide to James's charges. Nina, still recovering from the very poison meant for me, was arrested in her hospital bed. For the first time in their smug, twisted lives, they were caught off guard. The courtroom was cold, physically and emotionally. I took the stand with steady hands. I told my story clearly. Without embellishment, I described the coffee, the gut feeling, the mug swap, the documents, the poison report, the recording. Every word felt like another thread in a net they couldn't escape. James refused to look at me. Nina cried on the second day of the hearing, not because she was sorry, but because she finally understood she wouldn't be able to cry her way out of this one. The defense tried to argue that it was all misinterpreted, that I had paranoia, that the coffee wasn't meant for me, that the recording was taken out of context. But the jury wasn't buying it. No one was. When the verdict came down, guilty on all counts, the courtroom was silent. Not even a gasp, just a slow, heavy exhale from every soul who'd held their breath. James received 25 years without parole. Nina got 18. And me? I got my name back. I got my power back. And for the first time in a long, long time, I got my peace. After the trial, the DA's office offered me victim services, counseling, relocation support, even press management. I turned most of it down. I didn't need to disappear. I wanted to be seen. So I chose to tell my story, not for revenge, for others like me, for every woman who had been told she was crazy, overreacting, emotional, for every woman who knew something was wrong and was right. I went on a local podcast, then a national one, then daytime television, not as a victim, but as a woman who refused to be erased. One of the hosts asked me, "How did you stay so calm through all of it?" I smiled and said, "Because I'd rather survive with strategy than scream and be ignored. The best revenge isn't rage. It's clarity. It's truth. And it's walking away alive." A few weeks later, I moved into a small but beautiful apartment by the water. It's quiet here, peaceful, and every morning, I make my own coffee, sometimes strong, sometimes sweet, but always safe. Because now, I trust myself. Not the smile of a man, not the politeness of a sister-in-law, just me. And that's enough, you might think, because even after justice, even after revenge, there's still the long road back to yourself. There's something strange that happens when you survive something unthinkable. The world doesn't look the same anymore. Mornings feel different. Silence feels different. Even your own reflection looks back at you with a question. Now that you've survived, who are you going to become? I spent the first few weeks after the trial in a quiet kind of recovery. Not in a hospital bed, but in my own mind. I deleted James's number, blocked Nina on every platform, sold my wedding ring and used the money to buy a new laptop. I even changed my last name, not back to my maiden name, but to something entirely new, something that felt like mine. I wasn't running from the past. I was building a life they'd never be able to touch again. I started working again, not as a nurse, but as a speaker and advocate. It began with a support group for women who had survived financial and emotional abuse. Then, a nonprofit invited me to share my story with first responders who often miss the signs. I wasn't trying to be anyone's hero. I just knew how much it would have meant if someone had stood in front of me back then and said, "You're not crazy. You're not alone. And yes, your instincts are probably right." That became my mission, to be the voice I once needed. One afternoon, after a small speaking event, a woman in her 60s approached me. She looked hesitant. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her handbag. She said, "I've been married 32 years, and I think my husband is trying to poison me, but I was too afraid to say it out loud until now." I didn't flinch. I didn't question her sanity. I just sat beside her, took her hand, and said, "Then let's make sure you survive this, together." That's when I realized something powerful. My story didn't end in that courtroom. It started there, because survival isn't just about living through something. It's about what you do with it. These days, I wake up with no fear in my chest. I make my own coffee, black, bold, mine. I sit by the window, listen to the birds, and thank whatever force in the universe told me not to take that sip. Some people call it intuition. Some call it divine timing. I just call it awakening. To anyone watching this right now, If you've ever second-guessed yourself because someone told you it was just your imagination. If you've ever stayed quiet because you didn't have proof, only instinct. If you've ever looked someone in the eyes and felt something was wrong, but smiled anyway. I see you, and I'm telling you now, you don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your life. You owe yourself the truth. You are not paranoid. You are not weak. You are not too emotional. You are perceptive. You are powerful. You are still here. And if you've survived something dark, don't let anyone shame you for it. Tell your story, even if your voice shakes, even if they say, "But he seemed so nice," because the worst monsters don't growl. They smile while they stir your coffee. If this story hit something deep inside you, if it reminded you of something you've gone through or something you've barely escaped, please, don't stay silent. Share your story in the comments. Your voice might be the one that saves someone else. If you know someone who needs to hear this, send it to them. And if you want more stories of survival, truth, and emotional justice, subscribe to this channel, because here, we don't just expose darkness. We reclaim the light, one story at a time. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who count on your silence the most. But once you find the courage to speak, they can never unhear the truth. And sometimes, that's the real justice.